Hi, this is Kevin, and today I want to talk to you about the issue of the vicious cycle of validation, of seeking validation, and a common tool that we use to do that today, and how I realized that I was in this cycle. The tool that I'm talking about is Facebook, and Facebook is a very powerful tool that people use to get the validation of others to make themselves feel good. Validation is a very basic ego need that most human beings have, and the need is to be made to feel of value. We seek validation all over the place. We learn it from a young age. We do something right and somebody tells us good job and we get a warm feeling from that. That is validation. My general opinion about validation is that using it as your source of self-worth, using validation from an external source like even your family, friends, boss, colleagues, using these external sources of validation is a false source of self-esteem. Ideally, we'll get that internally from compassion for ourselves, from accomplishments, from self-confidence, some other things that we'll talk about another time. But this very powerful trend that I've seen in myself and which I see every day with my friends on my Facebook feed is a never-ending cycle of seeking validation from others. And here's one way I realized it. I've been into outdoorsiness and backpacking and hiking for a number of years now. And a few years ago, during the month of December, I took a hike in the mountains north of Las Vegas, and they were very snowy. There was snow on the ground and high mountains up to 10,000 feet and plenty of snow there. And I took a hike to this little cabin back there. And this cabin's 10 miles off the road. There's no plumbing, no electrical, nothing like that, but it's this cozy little cabin with a stove and a kitchen and this kind of stuff. So I took a hike in there with my dogs, stayed overnight, just absolutely loved it, and got up the next day and was walking around the area that the cabin was in. And it's in this very steep valley with high mountains on either side. And I thought to myself, this would be awesome if I came back here with some snowshoes and a snowboard and hiked to the top of this peak here, which would be 4,000 or 5,000 feet of elevation, and then snowboarded all the way down, completely fresh snow, huge open fields, and how awesome it would be. I sort of caught myself, part of my process of thinking about how exciting and fun this activity would be. A big part of that excitement was taking photos and subsequently posting them on Facebook and then basking in the glory of all the comments telling me how awesome it was and all the likes that I would get and all the people, oh wow, that's great, I wish I did that kind of thing. That experience right there sort of opened my eyes to a cycle that can repeat over and over again, where the motivation behind the activities that you're doing is not to enjoy them just for yourself, but to share them, and not for the purpose of sharing, share them for the purpose of getting quality feedback and making yourself feel good. What I do now is, when I think about an activity like that, I like action sports and this kind of stuff, so I do like to do that stuff genuinely, but I think about it for a moment and say, okay, if I didn't post this on Facebook, and in fact, if nobody ever knew that I was going to do this, would I still do it? And if that answer is yes, then it's like, great, full speed ahead. Let's go, go cliff diving and go snowboarding and all this kind of stuff. But if there's a little bit that says, no, if nobody ever knows that I'm going to do it, then it's not that exciting to me. Then that's my indicator that I'm doing it for the validation of others, not just for my own purposes. I would encourage you to use that same idea if you suspect that you might be a person who uses Facebook for the validation of others. In another talk, I think we'll get into the idea of a Facebook fast and a social media fast to sort of wean ourselves from this cycle. By the way, I think Facebook is a great tool for sharing and keeping in touch with your friends, and if you want to post something on there truly to share it, and because you're excited about it and you want people to share in your excitement, that's great. That's no problem. But do keep an eye on what your internal motivation is. If it's your ego looking for positive validation from an external source, keep an eye on that and, well, decide for yourself if that's how you want to use it. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I want to talk to you about some things that we'll be talking about in the next series of videos, which is going to be about the process that I'm in the middle of right now, which is changing from an unfulfilling job to pursuing my true purpose in life and hopefully fulfillment. I'm right in the middle of this process. I'm about to quit my job and start focusing on personal development media and coaching and motivational speaking, this kind of thing. We're going to do a series of videos to figure out things like, Are you fulfilled in your job? How do you know? Sometimes it's not easy to tell. If you're not fulfilled in your job, how do you figure out what your real purpose might be? What's something that will fulfill you as a person? And finally, once you figure that out, how do you get the courage and what steps do you take to transition from your unfulfilling life into your new fulfilling one? And a key source of motivation for this is that we don't want to end up in the space where we work an unfulfilling job for 30 years and then stop that job, quit that job and retire and look back at our lives and think, well, that was a waste of time. That's what we want to avoid.